Greetings duelists and welcome to another video. So today was the sneak preview for Duelist Nexus. The set officially is going to be TCG legal next week on the 29th. Um, and I gotta say it was a fantastic event. Um, I'm not going to be doing a box opening. I do have the box right here. I did already open it. I pulled. Um, I did pull a quarter century rare. I'll post that picture on the community tab. Um, it was quite a cool event. A lot of people open boxes. A lot of people open packs. There was people trading everywhere. I've been getting a few stuff for a couple friends. Um, but more importantly, I managed to gather what I cards that I kind of wanted for this format specifically. So as you guys already know, my deck for the entire format has been Scareclaw, Adventure Kashtira, but I'm going to try something new. I'm going to see how well can I do in this current format with another deck post Dune. As you guys already know, I already covered a few decks. I covered a few strategies. I covered a few what the decks can do and what they cannot do. Um, However, there is one that caught my eye more than others, and that's going to be the profile for today. So right now, what I have is Rescue Ace. Um, my goal is to not only try out Rescue Race for this format, but see if I can optimize it and play it for the format the most optimal way possible. Um, I figured if the Scareclaw Kashtira Adventure deck was doing very well for me throughout this entire format, despite how unpopular the deck was, I want to see if a deck that is almost as popular that did receive a good level of support can do the same thing or garner the same result. It's very soon to tell if that is the case or not. It's, and one big challenge that I will have is that as of right now, people will be preparing for this deck. I already started making videos on that, and not only that, I already showcased a couple duels and a couple things that the deck can already do. So it's very soon to tell if this will be the correct meta call or not, and if this can garner some results at an event. But yeah, without further ado, let's begin. This is basically my first draft. I did already tested a few duels with this current build, and I've been liking it so far. There are things that could be different, but playing in tournaments and seeing the results for myself is going to like determine whether or not those changes are correct or incorrect. Um, so for the monsters, we got Hydrant, Airlifter, 3 Impulse. This is going to be weird. You don't see a lot of Rescue Ace lists doing this. I'm playing 3 Fire Engine. And I'm also playing 3 Preventer. And there's the Fire Attacker and 1 copy of Turbulence. I'll cover the ratios as soon as I cover the rest of the deck. For spells, we got Emergency, 2 copies of Rescue, 1 Alert, 1 Headquarters. That's it for the Rescue Ace spells. For the Rescue Ace traps, we got Extinguish, Contain, and Reinforce, 1 of each. That's it for everything that's Rescue Ace. So for other spell cards, you got Small World, Called by the Grave, Reinforcement of the Army. And then for hand traps, or other utility cards, we have 3 Ash Blossoms, triple Droll, and triple Imprim, and Kurikara. Okay, so explanation time. I'll start with the rescue ace ratios. Um, so one of the unorthodox things is I am playing 2 copies of rescue, while many people play 1. Then the main reason for this is that I really like this card. Um, in what it in what it does. Basically, Rescue Ace is a deck that slowly snowballs advantage, and the more advantage you get, or the more later you get in the game, the stronger the deck becomes because you're already ahead of your opponent, like rolling more and more cards as the game progresses. So having a card that can facilitate that option is just really strong. Um, I also like its reborn effect for your opponent's monsters because if you do end up getting rid of like very important monsters your opponent has, like for example with Kurikara, or like with your hand traps or bigger monsters, then rescue just becomes problematic for your opponent because it means that those monsters you can start bringing them to your side of the field and just being problematic with them. Um, so I've been liking rescue at multiples as of late. Um, this card's phenomenal. Like, this is the whole reason like this deck is being built. Um, like Dune actually really did a lot of justice for this card. Um, and so far the card, and I gotta say the hype has been sold on this card and on this deck. But the more I've been playing the deck, the more I felt at ease just because of the existence of these cards. Um, I want to talk about Reinforce. My first draft or build of this deck did not play Reinforce, but after trying it out for a couple duels, I really like it a lot. I think this card is way better than I gave it credit for. Um, that the ability of just setting back your spell cards is really strong. This can set back the headquarters, which is really cool because it sets back any spell. It doesn't have to be a quickly spell, and just protecting your turbulence for an entire turn, or protecting your hot fire hydrant, could really just change the game. Can really just change the last landscape of the duel because it makes it problematic for your opponent whenever you're trying to do their effects again. Um, so yeah, I'm really sold on this card. I it's very soon to tell if I'll play more copies of this, but as of now, this definitely stays in the deck. But I was very skeptical at first, and now I'm not. So it's going to be weird that I'm playing only 1 turbulence. A lot of people play 2. Um, so my logic behind just playing 1 is you have so many ways to get to it, between emergency, rescue, hydrant, um, and impulse, just to name like the main cards. Uh, like just getting to this monster is so ridiculously easy that you really don't just need to open it. And in the off chance that it's already in the graveyard or banished, like Preventer can bring it back from banished, or like the rescue spell can just bring it back from the graveyard. So it's very easy just to get to this monster again if you do really need it. Um, the OCG don't play Fire Attacker, um, but I feel like our case is very different. We don't have Maxi, and this is a card that just helps facilitate getting into your cards easier. Um, like if you're like contesting against your opponent. It's also another extender. It has 2200 attack, 27 with the field spell, so it can be really big at some occasions. Um, I have nothing to say against this card. This card is phenomenal. Um, so I'll talk about the third preventer as well as the three fire engine. A lot of people play two preventer. They don't play three. I just want to open with this card. I think this card is phenomenal. If you get to a point where like you need to overextend, or you just need to just apply more pressure against your opponent, this is just a really strong card. Um, like I'm still baffled by the fact that this is a common. We might get a super rare in the XLTS pack. Who knows? Um, so the same thing applies for Fire Engine. Fire Engine is mainly another extender, and not only is it another extender, but this also applies pressure to your opponent because this makes it so you can summon Impulse or Airlifter, and the Airlifter will start getting you cards, as well as the Impulse. And super cool is that summoning Impulse means that you can summon Preventer, and then your opponent has to deal with both Preventer and this card. And again, with the field spell, they're just really big. They're just like 3k and 3300 beaters. So, um, I don't regret this decision. Ironically enough, I don't see this card enough. I don't really see it in my opening hand, like at all. So, there might be a situation where you start breaking on these, but as of right now, I've been liking it a lot. Um, the three impulse, I think this is standard. The three airlifters is just standard. The same thing with the three hydrant. Um, airlifter is pretty much the best card because it gets you to emergency. Emergency gets you to your entire deck. Um, yeah, these are the ratios as of right now. These are subject to change, but as of right now, during testing, I've been liking it. Um, so as for hand trap goes, the number one reason I'm playing Kurikara is because it's a small world bridge. So if you do open small world, you can get to this, or you can use this as the bridge for pretty much all your rescue cards except for Impulse. Um, and just going second, this is a really good board breaking card. Purely is going to be more popular now, and you're going to see those fat noirs running around. So just knowing that you have something in your deck that can contest to them, which is not really hard to be accessed, is a very fine option. So I'll talk about Imperm, Droll, and Ash. Um, so as of right now, I think hand traps are the best way to play this deck. I don't think that you cannot afford not to play them, especially Droll. Um, One of the reasons I'm leaning more towards Rescue Ace, instead of just sticking to playing Scareclaw, is because of Droll and Lovebird. I think this card is going to be very very popular in a lot of main decks, and that deck is just very very weak to it. Um, this deck is less weak because it does have some plays that do play around it. Um, and I guess I'll explain why I'm not playing Prosperity. That's pretty much the same reason. Me playing Prosperity just means that the deck is going to be weaker to Droll, and Droll is going to be very very popular. You can make the argument that it's just a consistency booster, and you could just break on this deck, but as of right now during testing, I've been doing fine. That could be subject to change, but during at the moment, I think this is pretty much fine. Uh, Pretty much like Small World and Rhoda are like other copies of Airlifter, and Airlifter can just get you to emergency. So in theory, you have like 8 copies of like your starting card. Um, I'm also playing Callback Grave. You don't have to play this, but however, I think we're going to enter into a hand trap format. I think hand traps are going to be very, very popular. Mainly draw for instance, and I think just playing this card really helps you against them. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it for the main deck. It's 40 cards. Like I said, as of late, I've been liking the ratios. That could change over time, um, but we'll see. This side deck, this extra deck is super experimental. I had I haven't summoned like half of the cards that are in here. I know some people lean towards Proxy of Magician and the Mud Dragon of the Swamp, and some people opt for the Cybers combo with the Terahertz. So my reasoning behind not playing those, I guess I'll show the yesterday before I say anything. Um, I played Link Kuribo, uh, Amiraj, Hita, Donner, the Nightmares, um, Appaloosa, IP, Access Code Goddess. I have Zeus and Baguska, and I have Dweller. And you can ignore this Boral Sword, it's just a filler. Um, so when it comes to me and extra deck building, I want as much utility as possible. I don't want to use this deck as an engine that bridges me into link climbing unless I really need to. If I'm going to be like extra deck climbing with this deck, I don't want it to just end on something like the Terahertz. I will just do something simple and just like summon IP. I really really like IP. A lot of people don't end on IP with their boards, but the reason IP I think is really really strong, it's because this deck can actually vomit a lot of monsters during your opponent's turn. Like I can give you an example. Let's say you have like just IP and you have like the rescue spell set, rescue or emergency. Let's say you have one of those, and in my case, I do play like the triple fire attacker. So I'd say fire attacker is very important here. Let's say impulse is also accessible, and you have like preventer in your graveyard. Like if you have these in your hand and this in your graveyard, and just these set, this IP can even turn into Underworld Goddess, and that's really really cool. That's really really strong because it's super easy to get to a lot of monsters, and your opponent just doesn't see it coming. You can summon a big Appaloosa with IP as well. You can whatever you summon with IP cannot be destroyed by card effects, so that's really really strong. If your opponent tries to contest it with just removal in the form of destruction. One monster I do kind of want to play, one monster I do kind of want to run is like Avramax, because I feel like IP into Avramax is going to be really really strong in this format. I think not many decks can handle that. In the past, you can say it was super easy for a certain amount of decks, but now looking at the post Dune decks and the strategies that we have at the moment, I think like getting to that specific combo line is just going to win you a lot more games than not. Um, but yeah, um, I just feel like with when it comes to the extra deck, you just want as much utility as possible. You want a way to deal with your opponent's cards, and I don't feel like you need to combo with this deck like super heavily. If your opponent does have the out to your cards, then you just have to make sure that you have enough cards that can just stop your opponent. be it your utility cards or other like niche cards in that instance. Like, I don't see the point of you trying to play around something like evenly matched and then just be victim to something like Nibiru. Um, or you're just trying to play around Imperm or Valor, but then you get Ash Blossomed on the spot, or like you get Ghost Ogred, like mid combo, and then lose. You just lose to certain hand traps because you haven't dealt with the other hand traps because you were dealing with the other hand traps. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it for like the main deck. So other cards that I've considered and still testing are Ghost Ogre, Ghost Bell. I've dabbled with more copies of Small World. Um, Another card that came out in Dune that I haven't talked about is Hita, like the Fire Channeler. And the one other card that I really want to test out is Trial and Tribulation. A lot of people don't know what this card is. I guess I'll explain. Uh, I think I already explained it in my past Rescue Ace video, but for those who didn't see it, or if you want more explanations on why I play this and considering this card, here it is. Basically, what this card does is that during the end of the turn, depending on how many monsters were tributed, you can do one of three things. If you tributed one, you draw one card. If you tributed two, you grab two monsters from your graveyard and add them back to your hand, and it doesn't target. If you tributed three, you can destroy three cards. So why is this detail important? Because um, you have multiple cards that can tribute your cards. Um, you have the impulse, you have the emergency, and you do have monsters that are tribute summon monsters, like the fire engine, the preventer, or the turbulence. And your opponent does not know what's going to happen when you activate this card. So if you activate this card and at the beginning of the turn and they know you're playing Rescue Ace, this is a really good target for Ash because if they don't Ash Blossom this, they're risking themselves either losing a couple cards or you just gaining back a lot of advantage. Um, like worst case scenario, you activate emergency and the emergency just becomes a 1-for-1 because you drew one card out of it. And that doesn't sound like a big deal, but in a deck that has hand traps, in a deck that has a lot of utility or cards that can just like stifle your opponent, even one draw out of this could be significant. Recurring monster from the graveyard is also really really strong. Like you can grab back your impulses, you can grab back like your airlifters or your fire engines for extra summons. Um, if your turbulence is destroyed, you can grab back your turbulences. Um, but yeah, um, I just really like this card. The reason I only play in one small world as at the moment is because I don't want to brick on this. This card is really bad at multiples if you're playing like a very low deck count. Um, because you cannot small world with a small world, and small world is a hard once per turn. Outside of that, the card's really good, so and it just makes it consistent. So it's something to consider. Um, so I want to talk about so let's talk about the fire channeler. The fire channeler, what it does is you can discard it and a fire monster, and for the rest of the turn you can only activate fire monsters. However, you can grab a fire monster with more attack than whatever you discarded. Um, this card is not bad because it basically means you have another way to get into one of your cards. My biggest issue with this card is that it has to be higher attack than whatever you discarded. So that already makes it so you cannot add the hydrant. You cannot add Hydrant, and you cannot add Ash Blossom, which I think are is the main reason why they did that effect. Um, if you want to add Airlifter, you're gonna have to dump specific cards for it, which is not that great. Um, the lowest attack monster that I'm running besides the Hydrant, it has 1500 attack, so you cannot really add Kurikara with this card, at least not consistently. Yeah, you're just better off to playing Small World. However, in the future, like when Age of Overlord is released, we will be getting the Snake Eye archetype, and that is one engine that you can play with Rescue Ace that can really benefit from this card. Um, and you don't care about the -1 because whatever you're losing in card advantage, you're going to regain it back with your Snake Eyes or your Rescue Ace cards. Um, but yeah, um, that's it for explanations. That's it for the deck profile. I hope you enjoyed like my showcase of this. I'll be doing duels with this deck, like throughout this format. Um, when it comes to me and decks that I build for tournaments and decks that I pick for events, the way I do it is I give a trial to the deck. If I don't top, if I lose 3 locals in a row with the deck, I pretty much try to switch to something else because it means that either the deck's not working or I really not doing well with the deck at the moment. It was just not meant to be it either the format or me playing it or the skills that I have. Um, but yeah, um, that's pretty much it. Uh, Stay tuned, more videos coming soon. Um, keep practicing and keep dueling.